Okay, so let's get back to the problem here and the reason why we're playing a little battery Tetris. I ordered 2 of these and I decided, you know what, I'm going to order 2, I'm going to test them out, put them through a good series of tests.
Howdy, welcome back to my channel. I'm building out an expedition camper and here we go. We're testing out 1800 amp hours of lithium battery for this camper.
Oh. Whew. There she is, all 69 pounds of her. That's right, that's what I measured these out at, 69 pounds each. That's 69 pounds per 300 amp hours of lithium battery. It's an excellent power to weight ratio. To put that in perspective, I think the Battle-Born 100 amp hours are 31 pounds each. Obviously you gain some economies of scale going bigger, so we save a few pounds in net, or a couple pounds per 100 amp hours. And the other big benefit why I bought the chins, it's not just because I saved a few pounds, this obviously wasn't it, is really because of space density, the space I could fit them in, and really the form factor of the battery itself, and how I could fit it within the camper space. I was really struggling to fit the Battle-Borns into that space. I like the Battle-Borns. I have them in my Sprinter camper van that I built out, and I love them. I have 4 100 amp hour Battle-Borns there. They've been great, and I really love their support. And I know the owners of the company, I think they're doing a great job with everything doing, but the price point of these was really incredibly compelling. And also, like I said, I couldn't get the form factor of the Battle-Borns, any of their models, to fit in the space I have to fit these, which is right in the on the dinette floor, which is right over the axle. It's literally right here is where the batteries are. So they're right over this axle. They actually go from the garage door to right about here. So they're literally just centered over the rear axle, which is fantastic. I wanted to keep all the main weight centered over the rear axle. So I got my water tanks and my batteries all right down low at the floor, going all the way across from side to side, right over the rear axle. And by having the batteries in the middle, instead of off to the sides, I keep all my electrical distribution really tight, because all the connections between all the batteries, they're all densely all stacked right up against each other. So all the wiring now is really short and sweet. And so I got all my connections in one spot. All my battery connect wires are really short. I don't have to go long distance if I have batteries on both sides of the camper, or if I also had some, say, in a big row going all the way across on the back wall, which is another configuration I thought about as well. So that was my best configuration. Also at 6 of these, which is what I'm putting in, that's right, 6 300 amp hour batteries, so 1800 amp hours in total that I'm putting in. I wanted those down low and in the center. The water weight will vary, right, as the water tanks get full or less, and so the average weight will probably be about the same, right, but they're off to the side, but sometimes will be less, sometimes will be a little more. The water can move from side to side very easily. Electricity can too, but water hose is way less costly and weight intensive than, of course, big lug battery cable lugs. So that's partly why I want these chins here. So I did look at several of the brands out there that were similar to these, but also like the Lithonics, which were incredibly expensive. To put these in perspective, I think these were pretty close to $1,000 for a 300 amp hour battery when I bought them. I think now they're about $1,100 per 300 amp hours. They also sell 100 and a 200 amp hour. They completely have a BMS, just like the Battle-Borns and the other lithium batteries, prevent from over voltage, under voltage, obviously a variety of other factors. And so you can pull up their specs online. But I was happy with the BMS that's in there, because they're going to be inside the camper in really insulated space and all ganged up together. Their temperature should be very regulated and very stable. I'm not worried about that really at all. Their temperature, I think, is going to be perfectly fine where they're at. So those are the main reasons why I bought them. Really low price point, lower weight to capacity, and also really the big one was the form factor and to be able to fit that in nicely. These have a pretty nice thin profile. It was about 9.5 inches wide. Now they're 10.5 inches wide, about 8.5 inches tall, and they're right about 20 inches long. There is a little bit of a handle here on each end. So there's little handles here. They got this nice nylon rope right here, so you can lift them up like you saw me doing, and then these fold away flat. You probably could just cut this handle right off if you had to gain that extra almost ½ inch there. It's just like a nylon case or a polypropylene or something like that. So this could probably easily cut off if needed to and save that little bit of space. I didn't need to. I fit them on there. It creates a little bit of an air gap between each one, which I like. And so that's almost an inch gap on the end, so a little bit of an air gap there. Side to side, they can pretty much butt up against each other. You can see here pretty much a vertical face. I really like batteries that have or battery packs that have rectangular, footprint, because we're working in rectangles here, rectangular camper, rectangular cabinet frames, everything else. So we got straight sidewalls on both ends, and also the top's flat too, so it's really easy to work with. So anyways, those are some of the reasons why I bought them. So let's get in a little bit to the battery test. I was worried when I bought these, because no doubt about it, it's a little bit of an unknown brand, and I was not as familiar with them. And I'm familiar with a lot of different battery manufacturers out there, and so I actually wanted to make sure I did a full battery test on it. And so I put them through their paces. I bought two. That's why I have two different sizes. I have the original version of this at 9.5 inches wide, roughly, and the current version, which is about 10.5 inches wide. And I have four of the current version, two of the existing version. If you saw my video on that, if not, watch it. It's why I had to kind of do a little bit of moving these things around every position possible to get them fit in. But anyways, these here, I bought the two, test them as a pair, because I am running them in a parallel series configuration. So they're 24 volts, two batteries connected as a pair at 24 volts. They're actually 12.8 volts each, so 25.6. Right, so I got an elevated voltage, so I cut my wiring size in half, wiring cost, wiring weight all in half, because pretty much wire size is pretty much all relative to its cross diameter, how much copper's in there, and again, same for weight, right? So I can cut that capacity, the size and cost of all that wire down. That's substantial. Instead of having to run a bigger wire, something like a 1/0 or a 2/0, I can actually set this down to like a number 6 wire when I did the wire specs from each battery. Going to my DC distribution. So that was one big benefit of going to 25 volts. The other big benefit is that now my DC distribution is at a far lower amperage, so I'm below all the standard operating amperages for all the equipment out there, so I'm not exceeding the amperage ratings of the different equipment, whether it's any kind of a magnetic relay, a switch, other battery kind of switch, the DC distribution buses, which are the Lynx distribution buses from Victron, all within the operating specs of those, of the amp capacities of those. So that's great. So one thing to note is that the positive and negative connections are on one end here. And so sometimes batteries do this differently, but this is how it's more commonly coming out today. And so that's how they are. So on that end, it makes it pretty easy. I got a negative coming off and a positive coming off. They're just typically like 8mm lugs, I think, is what it is, in millimeter screw lug there. They're nice connections. Seems like really nice construction. So let's get into it. Let's get into the battery test. Let's test these babies out. Let's see what they can do and make sure that they are going to perform the way I want them to. So I am putting, what I did is I put these through a full, charge them all the way up, get them to the full operating voltage. When you buy these, they come in a box and it's got the full charging, discharging parameters, all that stuff in there. You can also pull it offline, or even on Amazon or other resellers. You can pull the information online too. But anyways, I pulled all the specs down and I charged them all the way up. So I made sure I got the voltage all the way to full, left them there for several hours, make sure they're fully full, and saw no more amperage going in. Checked temperature of them as I was charging. Also then went through a full discharge at different C rates and did them both at 12 volts and 24 volts, so I could test them as a pair, make sure they worked equally as well. And again, checked both the infrared thermometer, checked temperature of the case and all sides and the top. Checked the amperage going out, did it, like I said, different C rates, and pulled it up to a pretty high C rate. And took them all the way down to, I think it was around 5 to 7% of a discharge. Pretty darn low. So I was very confident that I can get, and I got the full, basically, the calced out, that I was, at that full amperage capacity, and the voltage was still holding steady. So I'm pretty confident that these are definitely going to pull at least 300 amp hours or the rated capacity, if not even a little bit more. From the calculations, they'll pull a little bit over that. So somewhere between probably 300 to 310, most likely like 303 to 305. So they're good. They're performed just as well as any other battery out there. And generally, that's really what matters is the guts. What matters is two things, is the two main things, right? One is the battery cells that are in here. The battery cells are in here. Are they good battery cells? There's only a few manufacturers worldwide, and pretty much all the battery pack sellers, more or less used from the same manufacturers. So that's one. Are those good? And two is the BMS and the wiring inside good? And I'm confident from what I saw here that it performed as it should. I also did look online for some other reviews of these and tests of these, and did not see anything negative about that. Everything was pretty much positive and in line with all the other batteries and how they're made and perform. So that's why I'm going with these batteries and saving a lot of money. In some cases, up to several $1,000s per battery times 6. And so if you compare this like a Lithionics at around, I think, over $5,000 for a 300 amp hour, roughly equivalent size. And so it's in some of the other brands out there, at least half the price of some of their major named brands. So I'm confident these are going to perform great, and I'm excited to get these installed. So let's do this battery rundown test.
So here's the setup. We hooked up 2 batteries, 2 of these Chins batteries, which is what I had at a time. Also a Victron inverter, 3000 watt, and a Victron shunt, so we can measure the actual power going in and also out. I also confirmed that with an amp meter, and we checked voltage with some voltmeters as well, just to confirm that everything was right. We basically hooked up the inverter to actually my van to do some charging, as well as a couple other loads, and even ran that through some other smaller loads and did a C rate of charge and discharge at around between 2 and 3. The recharging rate was actually a little bit higher at a C rate of almost 5, and we saw that they definitely held their voltage down to about a 5% capacity, where we actually shut it off and recharged back at a very quick rate as well. So found that these performed very well. I did, like I said, checked also temperature with infrared thermometers throughout the battery case, and found that the top of the case, where it got the warmest, never really exceeded about 85 degrees. So they stayed at a comfortable, which was about 10 degrees over ambient in this setting. They stayed at a comfortable temperature and performed well. And so now it's really on time to start doing the layout, which is what I've been doing in this camper, and also finishing up the cabinet free framing around it so I can get this thing built out.
So thank you for watching. I appreciate you watching. Thank you also for subscribing, liking, and sharing this video with others who may also gain from it. I enjoy sharing with you guys my build here on my Expedition camper that I'm building out in this Expedition truck, and also sharing with you the different parts and tools and components that I'm using, selecting, and some of the more information around them to help you with your buying decisions, and also with how to build out a camper, or whatever I can share that may be helpful to you. I'm happy to share that and hopefully help you with whatever camper, truck, RV that you are building out for yourself. And so thank you for watching, subscribing, and sharing. There's a lot more coming up as I start really building out these interior cabinets and really getting going with those. So we're going to start getting some form to this camper on the inside. I'm excited to share that with you guys and see it all come together.